So next we come to our female lead, and that is Kelly Huddleston, who plays Emma Skye. And Emma, as I think I mentioned, the four roles that have the biggest parts to them are Phoenix, Edgeworth, Emma, and the Judge. And so thusly what that meant is that those were the only roles that couldn't be done all in one day, in one single session. There just wasn't time to do that. And obviously with Phoenix and Edgeworth, I could just do those at my time. With Emma and the Judge, those I just needed to schedule more than one session to do just even the first passes at the roles, let alone the retake sessions. With the Judge, it took 2. With Emma, it took 3. It took 3 separate days to schedule to do that, which is a bit of a time commitment. A bit of a time commitment, not a lot, but a bit of a time commitment if you're not the person doing the project like I am. But Kelly was really great about that. I went through a few people before I ended up calling Kelly, but that's not because I didn't think she was right for the role. To be honest, I thought Kelly was just far too busy to do it, and I'll explain why. Kelly is, of us Chapman Theater grads, she is another Chapman graduate. She's an 07, I'm an 05. Kelly has gotten quite a bit of success thus far. She's done a few very notable things. She's been on a couple of pretty visible drama shows. She was killed by John Lithgow on Dexter in a bathtub. She also was on Mad Men. Again, just a one-episode role, but a notable one. For those who watch Mad Men, Emma Skye is Don Draper's mother. There's an episode, I don't watch Mad Men regularly, so I don't know particularly, but I have seen the scene that she's in. There's a scene where John Hamm, the Don Draper character, is kind of sitting there like watching a flashback of his life or something like that, or I mean not even a flashback because he would have been just being born, but just his own history, and he is seeing his mother like giving birth to him. That's Kelly. That's Kelly Huddleston. She is Don Draper's mom. There's one other thing that she's gotten somewhat known for that's given her a little bit of infamy, and that's she was in a commercial for Education Connection, where she was the girl in her PJs going to college. I think they did a few of those college in your PJs commercials with a few different girls. I think Kelly may have been the first, or if not the first, then like the second, but fairly early on in the lifespan of those ads. So that gave her some recognizability, where she also was doing that thing, and that was a job that she'll be the first to tell you those were pretty cheesy ads, and she actually did she did a really funny parody video of the Education Connection ad, and she showed that to me. It was hilarious, where she just she mocked the hell out of it. I don't know if she's put it up on YouTube or if they've taken it down or something like that, but if you can find it, it's hilarious. She just totally rips them a new one. It was great. So Kelly plays Emma, and it was so nice of her. She's, like I said, she's so busy, but she's also one of the few Chapman grads at this point who's able to do just acting as her job. I think she has another job that she'll do every once or twice a year. It's an annual thing that's able to keep her afloat, but otherwise she's able to just focus on her acting career. As a career, and that's fantastic. God, I'm so happy for her that she's able to do that, and so because of that, interestingly enough, she actually had more time than maybe some of the other people were able to have, and that's why she was able to fit in all the days working on Emma, which ultimately were 4 separate days: the 3 individual passes at the first take of the role, and then also the retake day. We had to schedule around a little bit, because she had, various other requirements. She get called in to do a day on this show, or at one point she did actually leave town for a bit, head up. I don't know if she was heading to New York or if she was heading up state to Washington. She had spent some time out of state to do a part on a movie, which was fantastic for her. And again, we were just scheduling around what would work. And so that was all fantastic. In terms of Kelly's take on the role, she was great. She has great comedic sensibility. She really nice comic sense. And Emma is a bit of a funny character. There's no question about it. She had a nice just kind of energy about her to play a character. I had described Emma to Kelly in the first place. I described her Kelly to Kelly that Emma was a bit of a nerd girl. You know, she's not just your average teenage girl. She is somebody who's really, you know, excitable and nerdy about the whole scientific investigation thing, and so she's got that kind of spunky, like, you know, kind of perky nerd quality to her, and she hooked into that almost exactly immediately and was able to do that really nicely. She is pitched up because, you know, Kelly's a, you know, mid-20s actress, and so I, you know, and Emma's in her teens. She's 16, and so I did want to have Emma sound a little bit younger. You know, Dawson casting be damned. I wanted to make sure that she didn't just sound like somebody who was in her mid-20s. So I did pitch her up a little bit. Interestingly enough, Kelly, I think, changed the way she did the role. She naturally lifted her own voice up a little bit in pitch. By the time we got to the second day and ever after, so that I pitched her up, I think, a little bit more on the first day, from the first day's recordings, than I did from any of the other recordings. And I realized I had to not pitch her up quite as much after that, and it all matched. But it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, she actually got, she made her pitch higher ever after, and so that was just an adjustment that she made that I noticed as I was working on all of her dialogue, and she did just a fantastic job. She had, you know, she's a bit of a stranger to voiceover. Many of the members of the cast were people who hadn't done a lot of voiceover in the past, but she had great instincts. She was able to put in a few exert efforts, sounds like, you know, like there's one point where Emma's trying to push over a can, you know, a big can full of water or something like that, and she knew to put those in. It was great instincts. I didn't even tell her to do it. She just did it. There were all sorts of little bits like that. She actually had really great kind of improv instincts where she would just throw in little itty-bitty bits that weren't necessarily in the script, and I had people stick to the script pretty closely because the script was going to be on the screen. But if there were little things that wasn't really going to be a big problem to hear it, I didn't mind it, and it wasn't necessarily in the script. If there was like a laugh or a gasp or something like that, if it worked, it worked, and I just wanted their performances to be unique and lively and have that sense of legitimacy. Kelly was really great at doing that. And of course, she also handles the dramatic material with great aplomb. She actually, the heaviest, saddest section for Emma, which is the very beginning of the third investigation day when she's telling the whole backstory of SL9, was actually something she had done on the very end of the second recording day, and she didn't think she had it in her. And I knew that she did. I knew that that was something that she could do. And not only that, but I actually kind of even wanted the fact that she was a little exhausted from doing all of the rest of the recording from that day. She'd already done the entirety of the second investigation day, and she'd done the second trial day all up to that time. And I knew that I kind of wanted to use that exhaustion that she was already feeling in the performance for when she was relating all that sad backstory. And it ended up being perfect because it wasn't very physically exhausting, but it was emotionally draining, and she did a great job with it, and she was just in the right position, so that by the time that second recording day was over, she was like, wow, Alex, that was definitely right. Yeah, that wasn't even remotely hard to do, because it all matched. And I knew I wanted to get all that done on that day because the third investigation, third trial day was so much bigger than either the first or the second. So I'm gonna end up thanking everybody, every individual cast member on each of the commentary tracks. But thank you so much, Kelly. You were so fantastic. You know, and to everybody, you know, listening, Kelly is one of the best actresses I've ever worked with. I would work with her on anything ever. You know, and I think her work, you know, shows in just how awesome she was in Phoenix Wright Rise from the Ashes. You know, thank you so much. Next on our cast list is Kristen Hansen, who plays Lana Skye. Kristen is unique in the cast in that she is the only non-graduate of Chapman. She is a trained actress. Actually, off the top of my head, I don't know what college she went to, but she is an actress. The reason I know her is that she is the girlfriend of Eric Seidenberg, Gumshoe. And so I got to know Kristen through through that connection, in particular, I got to see Kristen and Eric in a production of Miss Julie, August Strindberg's Miss Julie, up in North Hollywood. And I saw that before I cast her or anything like that. I saw that, and then we also, a lot of us actually, quite a few of us, I think in fact after that second recording day with Kelly, it was on that, in fact on that particular day that both myself and Kelly, on separate paths, we were all ending up at this show of Skip Beals, and another Chapman graduate, Jason Rue, were doing a show up in the North Hollywood area as well. And a lot of us ended up, quite a few Chapman graduates, some involved in the show, some not, or some involved in the dub, actually, the Phoenix Wright, and some who were just, other friends of ours who are Chapman graduates. We all ended up going to this particular production, and so that was a great reunion up there. But I ended up meeting, on that night, Eric and Kristen in a Thai restaurant a couple of blocks away from the theater, and we were just sitting there and talking and stuff like that. And I mean, in my own obsessive way, it had been mentioned to me that Kristen might be interested in doing this role by Eric, and I was while we were sitting there talking, I was kind of and having already seen Kristen act and see that she was a very good actress in Miss Julie, I was sitting there at the Thai restaurant, kind of just listening to her talk, kind of thinking, okay, all right, this voice works. Okay, yeah, her voice will work for it, because I had a particular idea in mind for Lana Skye. I didn't want her to be a soprano. She had a little alto. She needed to be a slightly deeper voice as far as female voices go, because she's a little bit more of a woman. She's not an old woman. And obviously Kristen is basically the same age as Lana Skye character anyway, in that late 20s kind of realm. But still, there needs to be something kind of serious and adult about Lana Skye, as opposed to being a twittery girl. And Kristen had the right tones for it, and so kind of, look, Miss Julie is a more important show than no question about it, than Phoenix Wright Rise from the Ashes doing a dub on YouTube. But for my own purposes, I guess I kind of used the show and then talking to her at that Thai restaurant as kind of, I guess, an audition in that own weird way. At least just for my own purposes, seeing that, like, okay, this casting would work, and I offered it for her, and she was so up for it, so willing to do it. And so ultimately, she was the last person cast. She was the last person that I cast and recorded for this project. And so most of her recording happened in the late December or early January area. She playing Lana was a little tricky. She's like I think I said earlier, I don't have great equipment, and the sound at least for the old computer when it was recording the sound wasn't especially good at recording volume at a high volume in a high volume way. So everybody had to speak up, including myself, when we were recording, and that was particularly tricky for Kristen playing Lana, because Lana is so sedate, so she couldn't get very emotionally heightened, and so it became this tricky thing of play this emotionally blocked woman but play it loudly, which was very difficult, and so there was a learning curve for both of us, and me directing her and doing it, how to make her character read just technically on the soundtracks. But we made it work. Obviously, I had to amplify a bunch, but it worked. And I don't think anybody didn't hear her in the process of the dub. So obviously everything worked out just fantastic, and her performance was great. It is, again, a very tricky role, because she is a character who holds all the secrets. She knows all of the answers, or almost all the answers, save the secrets that have been hidden from her, and that in particular being an important problem. So that was something that we were playing with that a lot in terms of what that meant for her in terms of her performance, in particular because she needed to not give anything away. She needed to hold her cards close to her vest very aggressively. And so we had a lot of discussions about things. We needed her emotional responses to not be entirely human in a way, or kind of entirely normal in terms of psychology. There were things that she said, there were things that Lana would say that a normal person would say in a certain way. And I said to Kristen, and Kristen and I discussed this, these are things that where I want you to do the not normal thing, and I want you to flatten it. I want you to not have an emotional reaction to that. So, like, for instance, talking about killing a man, she just says, yeah, I did it. Just real off the cuff, like, yeah, I killed that guy. Oh, yeah, no, I stuffed his body in the trunk. Yeah, like, things like that. Not even from a comic perspective, but just really flat and like there's no sense of what it's doing to her. And so these were the travails that we had to go through to make her performance work as Lana, because Lana is, in that respect, such a difficult character emotionally to work with. And then kind of leading up and just kind of playing this game of keeping everything back, so that when she eventually does blow up during the third trial day, when everything seems like it's about falling apart, all the all the tricky work she's been trying to do to keep Emma from being blamed for this murder that she thinks Emma did actually do, starts going out of her control. She starts really losing control, and that was and that, by the way, when she finally let loose, was amazing. I loved the tracks of Lana finally getting really emotional. She does a fantastic job with that. I think ultimately, I think that was the part that Kristen was maybe more emotionally familiar with. She was able to get to that with great gusto. It was the flat stuff that was really hard to do, all that really deadpan stuff that and frankly, I think as actors we really relish the big blow up moments. It's the quiet stuff that can really get you. And to that degree, it was also this thing of me giving Kristen a lot of context before each line. I had to kind of say, okay, this is the information you're not giving, and I want you to know this information before you do these lines, because I want you to have a sense of holding this back. And so even if this is information that you cannot actually communicate in your performance, I want to give you that information. I am the kind of I believe very intensely, as a fellow actor, I believe that you need to give actors more information than they even require. And I have been in a couple of things, like for a few filmmakers, particularly in college, student filmmakers, who had a tendency to think the opposite. They being non-actors themselves, they seem to think, oh, well, you give an actor just a little itty bitty bit, and all I need you to do is walk up and look this way, and that's it. And they don't give you any information. They don't tell you what you're actually supposed to be doing, what the communication of the film is going to be doing. And I really disagree with that kind of directing. I believe in the exact opposite. You give the actor much more information. You help them figure out much more information about the character, so that they are capable of giving you these minor shadings that make it so much more interesting, that if you go back you can listen, oh, maybe she is referring to something here, or maybe she's not referring to something here. That is the kind of stuff that makes a performance interesting to listen to. And that kind of contextual work is important, and especially important in a character like Lana, who holds so much back, because you need to get the sense that she is actually holding so much back. So again, Kristen, you did such a fantastic job. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, and kicked ass at this role, truly.